All right. Welcome to another edition of the Nectar Blueprint Lessons with Legends. I love saying that. It kind of rolls off the tongue. Lessons with Legends. And we have a legend I've learned a lot actually from our next guest, not only from healthcare, but how to communicate healthcare in what I affectionately call a marketing. I've become a student of marketing and trying to master it always. And Jesse has been a mentor of mine in that. So doctors that are going to listen to this, and even general public, you can kind of see how we operate and how we attempt to get our message across. It's a very important thing to me. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce Jesse. Jesse, tell me, just go through your background, kind of how you got into this space, and a little bit about yourself, and then we'll roll.
Yeah. So, hey, thank you so much for just allowing me to be on here with you. So, my background obviously has been in the health and wellness space. 21 years. I was a trainer, had my own personal training facilities for 12 years. But I, we'll say this: like owning your own business, right? Especially in the health and wellness space. I mean, typically our number one goal is we want to help more people. But when you go into business for yourself, you kind of recognize that, hey, I can only help the people who know who I am. And either we learn to, I mean, for me, I built my business on referrals and I used to stand on that as if, I had that flag in the ground as like, dude, I build my business it's all referral based. I was proud of it. But then one day a mentor of mine said, hey, how many more people could you help if you actually learn how to market?
Yeah.
And as I sat there for a second, I was like, dude, I can't believe you just said this to me. Um, but it made me really think about that. Here I was like bragging that I built my business on referrals. Like, how many people was I missing out on helping just by not knowing how to market? And so I, kind of went on a quest to, really learn how to market in the fitness business. And as I started understanding it and learning how to do it, at first I was kind of like thinking, okay, I got to tell people how smart I am. I got to give them all this information. And as I started to recognize is was like nobody really cared about any of that. What they really cared about was like, am I actually getting results with the clients I'm working with? And are they able to see that? And so as I started to kind of understand marketing at a deeper level, I began to really showcase, like, hey, and demonstrate these are the results that we get our clients. In fact, when once I understood this, when our clients would walk in the gym, we would have a wall that was called the Wall of Fame. And there would be,
Love that.
at least like 100 before and afters up on the wall. And so as I started to kind of understand this at a deeper level, I started to kind of be the go-to person in our town like I already was, but like it even started to really multiply once I started to understand marketing. And so that's really where I first learned it. And then as, I grew that business, I learned different styles of marketing, whether it was paid advertising or organic. And so as, I sold my training facilities 5 years ago, I got more into coaching business owners and they started asking me like, "Hey, how did you grow your business?" And so it naturally kind of progressed into teaching, health professionals how to, effectively market their business and build their brand through, you know, through marketing and through posting content and through like social media. And so that's kind of what got me to where I am today. And you've been one of the guys I've worked with for specifically on this for a little over 3 years. So
Yes. And I was I remember coming across, and all of a sudden you started showing up in my feed a little bit, and it was a little bit more, and I was like, this guy's kind of rock and rolling. I knew of you through a mutual mentor, Garrett White, and the Warrior Method that I jumped into. And I know you were what, and Warrior number one, was it? Was it one or two or something like that? It's
No,
just far.
I was Warrior week 16 and Warrior week
Okay,
21.
all
I
right.
was in such a bad place. I had to go through twice.
I've been told that I need to, but I've been resisting. But yeah, it was I remember even being nervous jumping on a call with you about marketing because I'm like, dude, this guy's like one of the OGs on Warrior. And if you don't know anything about Warrior, you always have an edge in talking with another Warrior. You never know what you're gonna get there, and I loved behind the scenes what you were doing, and one of my stories, and I remember connecting with you, that it was like I was throwing so much shit at the wall. I was doing a podcast every day. That was my goal. I'm like, I'm going to do 365 podcasts in a year, and I was pretty darn close. I think I ended up with like 300, and it was just me talking and throwing stuff out there. And I ended up having some bit of following, but it wasn't converting. And my message was getting out there, but there was no like movement with that. And it's one of the things when I connected with you, it was like, look, you got a great message. We just need to get it in front of more people. And then it's the aspect of converting that marketing message, which was the missing link for me and a lot of different things. And so the other component that I loved was that there was an unknown code in a lot of social media that I was running into that didn't even know, that I was being restricted. So my audience was super small, and I'll talk about my journey later on this, but how it just basically you helped me crack that code, and once that code got cracked, there was people that were jumping into DMs with me, and flash forward 3 years, I don't say this arrogantly, but it put me in a position that people, like, they have a serious health issue, they're messaging me, their little kid's sick, they're messaging me, and I don't mind that at all because we're in constant conversation and being able to help people and then go down that direction. So pretty darn cool. But walk me through that. I mean, from that point, what not all the details because there is a formula for that, but diving into some of the social media and being able to crack some of those codes and get that message out to more people, because that's the desire, isn't it? Of every healthcare practitioner, and I love it because I've seen, after I've squeezed into the fold here, everybody that was kind of around me, most of my network with other chiropractors, were just like, what are you doing? And it's kind of a chain of other chiropractors, healthcare practitioners have jumped in too.
Yeah, I mean, here's what I'll say, man. Like, literally, you became the go-to source in your community. Now, you always were good at what you were doing, but where the disconnect often is with so many of the health professionals we work with is it's never a question of like whether or not they're actually good at what they're doing. It's, can they actually communicate who they are, what they do, and how they help people. And what we found is that, like me, it was kind of like I wanted to teach people how smart I was. I wanted to educate them. I wanted to give them value. And in that, it was kind of like I talked trainer talk to my
Yeah.
audience. And, 99% of my audience did not understand that. But they did understand was results. And so once we started to shift in that communication, things began to change. And so even, for you, is like, here you are, doing 300 podcasts, you're like, dude, I'm crushing it, right? But it's like, hey, no one's engaging in my content.
Yeah.
No one's even paying attention to me. And like, I'm kind of like frustrated in the sense of, I dude, like, I don't know what's going on, right? It's like a lot of times we just think putting content out there is the answer. And although I will say this, man, when you're that consistent with what you're doing and you're that committed to it, like, to me, that's very impressive. So I never want to take that away from someone, but like, just a slight shift. And it's like, hey, Todd, like, just do it this way, don't do it this way. And it's like you automatically start, oh, dude, that like worked. Now all of a sudden I have like 10 people, then I have 20, then I have 30. And then it's like, oh my gosh, like I have all these people now paying attention to what I'm doing. And what I like to say is like usually help people in one of two categories. They're either the guy like you who may be already putting stuff out there, but they're just not getting the engagement they wanted and they're not converting it into sales. We definitely help you understand the system and take what you're already doing and just make it better. Or it may be the person who's like, man, I've never done anything on social media. And we kind of teach them from A to Z. But what I will say is this is that right now, in the next 12 to 18 months, if you are not making the transition to organically grow your business on social media, your business will be obsolete in the next 18 months.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that is because you have over 48 platforms right now to post on and organically grow your business for free. It doesn't cost you anything to do that, but I want you to think about something. Okay, if you're a health professional, you know, how many years ago was it that they had a blue check mark that you had to earn? And then all of a sudden they decided one day, hey, we're going to charge $14.99 for that same blue check mark, right? Now, how many people are or how many people like recognize Instagram and Facebook? Hey, if we just charge $14.99 a month, we'll now make X amount of dollars. And I think it just in them doing that alone, that was like close to $1 billion shift in profits. So think about that is like, what if in the next 12 to 18 months, social media decides, hey, for you to have an account, all of a sudden it's $4.99 a month, it's $10.99 a month, it's $19.99 a month just to have a social media account. Now all of a sudden it's no longer free to grow your business. Okay. And that's really where I see social media going.
All right, we we had a bit of a power bump, power loss right in the middle of the podcast, so it'll be spliced together if things look a little different. We just did a few push-ups and we're back on it now. So, all right. So Jesse, you were just decompressing about the fact of where you see social media going with pay sites, and if you want to just kind of recap that, and we'll merge that together for sure.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that, I was kind of presenting was, the idea of like kind of the blue check mark, how, for a good 4 or 5 year period, we were able to, the key on everything that we were doing was if you think about it, that blue check mark really represented someone having to do something to actually get that. And the status of that was very high. But like as soon as, they flipped that and said, okay, now you got to pay $14.99, the credibility of that kind of went away. But it was, if you think about it, I think Facebook and Instagram made close to $1 billion once they made that shift.
Yeah.
And so, thinking of it this way is like right now you have 48 social media platforms that are free for you to post content on. And so, I think the way social media is going and the popularity of it, I think in the next 12 months to 24 months, they're going to start charging to be on social media. Okay. Even for a personal account. And so, what I was kind of getting at was like, imagine if you didn't take advantage of the free platform while you had it. Like you've been waiting to build your brand. You've been, kind of in hanging out in the back. And now people are now going to pay for this service, which obviously they're going to make a ton of money on. But at the end of the day, you've waited around for years to decide whether or not you're going to build your brand. I will always say this, like your brand should always be built through your personal profiles, whether it be on Instagram, Facebook, or anything else, because ultimately your personal life, it becomes your brand. It's like, what are you doing in the morning? What are you doing in the middle part of the day? What are you doing in the evening? People want to tune into that. What was that movie? I don't remember what it was, man, but it was like almost like early 2000s, but it was like they tuned in to the person's life and everybody kind of sat back and watched it, right? And that's really what I felt like that movie kind of describes what social media is today.
Truman. Yeah.
Yeah, Truman Show. It's like you have your own Truman Show, and how well you display that usually dictates by how many people see it.
No, I love that, and from a doctor's standpoint, there was a couple points that you had brought up, but there is, I've always told this story. It's like the doctor that tells you stop smoking and goes out on the break and smokes. Being transparent on that, I think, is a really healthy, brand, being in alignment with that, which means that if I'm going to be talking about weight loss, if I'm going to help people down a point of transforming their life and marketing to that, I better represent that as well. And so that's a really healthy angle to go. But also on the flip side, like you were talking, and I know this resonates really a lot with chiropractors, and I remember getting out of school, it was all about, and you had mentioned this, is all about my degree. This is what I bring to the table. Here's all my credentials. And you have really transformed that for me. And I want other healthcare practitioners to understand that there is often in marketing to show our techniques. It shows our skill set, maybe even what we offer, versus the desired result that our avatar or our patients are seeking. And that was a huge flip for me to get out of just like, and I started to realize as I saw other chiropractors, other healthcare practitioners, even other medical websites, it was all about them. And I love the fact that, you mentioned this predominantly like with a weight loss peptide, is stop talking about the peptide and start talking about the results. I mean, nobody else talks about the wrench that they use to fix your engine.
Fix your
It's,
car, yeah.
yeah, it's like it's all about here's what we can do. And I think that's a breath of fresh air in the marketing world, and a lot of alignment where you're patient centric, person centric versus, again, trying to just, toot your own horn what you're doing.
Well, let's say this, man. The disconnect in marketing is going to come down to the way that you communicate, right? And so, what we've done is said, okay, listen, you can, I'll just use soft wave, as an example. I'll roll out a couple examples. So like, let's say we have this device, it's called the soft wave. It helps you get out of pain. It's a tissue regeneration protocol. Now, what most chiropractors do is they sit there and they're like, hey, come in and do my soft wave, come in and do my shockwave therapy. But like, to me, the first thing I think of is like, dude, I don't want to get shocked,
Yeah.
right? I don't want some like crazy device. And so it immediately causes massive resistance. Now, it also, the way it's being positioned is really more like, hey, I'm marketing this to other owners who have Softwaves. So the only people who really understand what Softwaves is other people who own the device. Okay. And so what we say is like, look, stop talking about the tool or the machine, start talking about the actual results it gets. So it's like, hey, let me show you how I can help you get out of pain within, 30 days or within like 1 4-minute treatment. Let me show you how to get out of chronic, plantar fasciitis pain and like one treatment, right? That is where someone's like, holy crap, like you can actually do that. So what we're doing is we're saying like, look, stop focusing on the tool, the method, whether it be semaglutide, start focusing on the result it produces and speak about it from there, because ultimately the client cares about the results. They don't care about the device, the method, the tool, or whatever you're using. It just creates chaos. And to the average client, it would be like me speaking Spanish to an English speaking clientele. Hey, like you're just saying words, like it doesn't mean anything, right? And so we're helping break down that communication barrier and making it easier for the people that are watching you to understand what you're actually talking about.
Yeah, and that's incredible. And we've seen six-figure months of just switching that script around in the aspects. If I could show you in the next 90 days how to reduce your blood pressure, reduce cholesterol, gain your energy, youthful energy back, and then oh yeah, by the way, shed 15% of your body weight, would you be interested? And it has nothing to do with peptide. It has nothing to do with our back end programs, but that's the results that people are seeking. And so I really, I really commend you and being able to help myself and help other, healthcare practitioners literally get out of their head and in the head of the person. We start to understand what the patient wants, what the public wants, what keeps them up at night. So what's their worries? Where are they at with all these things? And from my standpoint, it's such I'm so passionate about that because I've always been like a student of marketing and trying to understand what would keep what words, what could I do to not be in the way of the situation of somebody getting the transformation that they want. And
Yeah.
I think that pulls out a lot of the hearts of practitioners that really got into it to help people, but then find themselves in this arena of like, well, gosh, I didn't think I was going to have to market to people, and and I'll open that up for you to kind of talk about, but I hear this all the time with other doctors that are like, well, you can't sell health, or I'm not in sales, and I'm like, everybody's in sales. I mean, my kids are all the time, they're in sales. It's truly what happens is like, hey, dad, last night, she needed a new pair of goalie gloves. And the sales pitch began. It was like, hey,
Yeah.
so my old ones have holes in them. They're a little worn out. Those fingers are breaking down. And then and she goes into like, and that exposes my fingers to being stretched more, maybe injured. So then the pitch. Well, I got these new gloves over here. And so we have to realize and get out of this stupid aspects that as a doctor, you're not supposed to be in sales. You're always in
Right.
sales. And it's not it kind of is like a dirty word in the past, but it is something that you have to come into alignment with to be able to help people move a direction. And I know you had that a lot in your personal training businesses and stuff like that, in your gyms that you ran. I mean, if you could not move people towards and get inside their head and help them get out of the way and move to get the result, then the results never got there. And so it is at a constant, I guess, education, yes, but also motivation through a little bit of manipulation.
Well, let's say this, man. Whatever way you want to say it, let's just say this. Like, my number one goal is to understand what people want so I can help them get to where they want to go and be the vehicle of change that helps them get there. So, like, if I'm a health professional, dude, I'm going to sell people on, hey, here's what you say you want. Let me help you kind of be the vehicle of change on getting there. And if we can always remember, if I know what you want, it's much easier for me to help you. What most people do is they tell you how they can help you before they've asked you what you wanted, and then there's a huge disconnection in that. Okay? And so if I know you, Todd, and I'm like, "Hey man, what do you actually want?" And you're like, "Hey, you know, I want I want to lose 20 pounds." And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I actually, might have a program that could help you do that. Versus if your goal is to lose 20 pounds, I never find out what you want. I'm like, hey Todd, like, dude, I got this killer, muscle building program over here that is guaranteed to add like 2 inches to your biceps and tell you how great it is and how many certifications I have. Dude, I'm now disconnected from what you actually want. And you're kind of like, hey, man, you just stop paying attention because I came with everything that I thought you might want instead of just asking you. And I see that is a huge in sales. I can't offer you the solution to what I don't know what you want. Right. And so instead, most health professionals start talking about how educated they are, all of their certifications and giving them information, but they're not even giving them the correct information because they don't actually know what the client wants.
No, that's a huge point. And it infiltrates. I mean, I even find myself going back into that a little bit, like describing what we do a little bit too much, even in conversations. But I will say with habit based, if somebody listening to this podcast has not been exposed to this a little bit. Basically, there's a couple of things. There's a pot of gold that you always talk about, which is basically your brand. But what happened immediately for me and just walked down that was it started to check the box of what I've always tried to do, which was to be and I had this from day one. Telling a quick little story of this, like I remember calling the newspaper and just saying, "Hey, I'd like to write a health article. I just want to become the natural health expert in my area." And they said, "Well, yeah, but we're gonna have to advertise it. So you write it." And I'm like, "But no, it's like a community service thing." I'm like, "I just want to get out there." And then I started. Then they were like, "No, we're gonna have to put paid advertisement, and then you get a pay per column width." And I was like, "No, God, all right." So then I go to the radio show. Can I do a radio show? And then you guys sell advertising associated. Well, you have to pay for the radio show. I'm like, no, but this is a community service thing. So there were so many avenues that I went down just to try to serve people, try to get a message out there, try to help people from a natural standpoint, not be on medications and transform their lives wherever it was. And immediately when I started working this pot of gold, I started executing, the formulas, and I can show you here on my phone all the messages. And this is what ends up happening. Probably shouldn't show people's, but it starts happening is there's these DMs of people asking questions, me engaging, being involved in their lives and helping. And what immediately started to happen, and I go back because I tell one quick little story on that too. But what immediately started to happen is like I'm at the grocery store and the gal's checking me out, and she's like, "Oh, you're that doctor." And I'm like, yeah, I am a doctor. I'm like, no, that guy I see on Facebook. I really wanted to meet with you. And it became this like almost celebrity status. It was weird because it's always hard when you don't know somebody else. I'm like, do I know you? Should I know you? And that
Yeah.
wasn't just by happenstance. It was people were listening. And even though I wasn't engaging particularly maybe with that person yet in a message, they had seen me, they had known me. And then that is a brand. That's what's marketing. That's what we love to do. But then the other component that just, makes my heart pound a little bit is that then you get to know people. And Jason West, Dr. West, mentor of mine, he was on a podcast and he remembers a gal just like kind of grabbing his hand on his way out. He was going to help her with all sorts of stuff. And she goes, "Look, I want you to understand I'm not just a number." And it flipped that for me a lot because now I'm engaged on where are you at? What have you tried? What were your results with this? And we go down this pathway of really getting to know people before they actually commit and say, "Hey, yeah, I want your services. I want to come in and see what you can do for me." I have this like, "Hey, it was great to talk to you on Facebook. And I know all this. You've been through all this. All right, let's go from here." And we take off from a point that I don't get to with what I call cold advertising, which is somebody calling in off an ad, of a billboard, or whatever it may be.
Yeah, man, it's a it's a great description of like really you're building, that celebrity status. And that's what the real power is when you're a community is like you're in a community, you're building a celebrity status with people and they already know you, they like you, and they trust you before they ever come in.
Yes.
And so it's almost like they're kind of starstruck, right? It's like, hey, I actually have access to Dr. Todd, And so what that does is it's almost like these people are already sold before they come in because they've followed your content. They're living, they're kind of like living their life vicariously through you. So it's like, dude, I saw you flying your plane, like, and you
Yeah.
went to your kid's football game. I saw you doing this. Like, it's so cool. But like, that's what people want. They don't just want to know they're a number. They don't want to just know they're another patient, right? And so you're inviting them in to your life and your lifestyle and helping them become a part of that, which it's at first it's a little weird, man. Like I remember kind of doing it at first, but like after a while, it's like I couldn't even go to dinner, man, without having someone either want to pay for my dinner in the community I lived in, or they're like, "Oh my gosh, he's here." It's like covering up my food. It's like, dude, like relax. I'm not gonna like tell you can't eat that, but So it was like everywhere I went, somebody knew who I was.
Yeah, it's incredible. I've had that happen in the grocery store too. I don't go grocery. My wife does it now because I'm like, these people are always like, they, throw a bunch of stuff on top of their, don't look in my cart, Doc. And I'm like, that's all right. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, it is. It is a beautiful thing. And then to compound on that too, what ends up happening is, and you teach these methods to be able to create an avenue for those people that want to follow or and even want your content to be able to be in a group where you have an opportunity to continue to teach. And maybe one thing didn't resonate. I know for us, like if people aren't into chiropractic, but then we've seen a lot of people like, yeah, I need some help with my weight. And so we're helping them with their weight. And then, oh, by the way, it's going to, cross filter into cross pollinate, as we say, into other avenues. Well, I didn't know you guys did this, and my dad's got this, and the countless referrals that we probably don't keep track of as well as we could or should, worth that one person coming in and then being exposed to other things that you do as well.
Yeah, I mean, you have you kind of have what we call, that multidisciplinary clinic,
Yeah,
that offers a lot of solutions to, one person. And so what's so great about that is like, hey, somebody can come in just for chiropractic, somebody come in for just IV therapy, someone could come in just for weight loss. But the cool thing about the way that you've really, built out your practice is that someone can come in for all of those, right? And really get healthy. And so it's way bigger than just coming in to get out of pain. It's way bigger than just coming in to lose weight. And what's cool about that is you can display that brand that, hey, we're about health optimization. We're about helping the entire person, and you're able to display that in your marketing. You're able to create smaller communities off your bigger community and brand with people who say, hey, I want this more. I don't need this right now. And so it really gives them kind of a progressive feel that they're being, they're getting better because they're now moving on to a different level of service or care, where most people will speak just on maintenance once somebody gets out of pain. I think, what you're able to do, and people like you who we work with are able to say, no, it's not just about getting out of pain or maintenance. It's about wellness and optimization in your health and your life.
absolutely. Absolutely. And from that, we've created a journey that has been phenomenal. And again, it's one of those things that I've taught quite a bit on. And you're dropping videos in there, and we're teaching. You don't think anybody hears it, sees it, and then when somebody's coming in, they're like, "Oh, pointing on the poster. I love that. I love that." And I'm right here, and it's cool, like you said, to have somebody already educated to that point, that they're in an entry point in our office, like ready to go. And a couple things, and Jesse, you can speak to this too, and then I'm going to ask you, if you don't mind, a couple specifics on some things that you can answer. But I just had a conversation with our medical doctor that drives a lot of our integrated procedures and stuff like that. Phenomenal mind, 37 years in medicine, and he just keeps dropping all this stuff on burnout and all of these doctors, colleagues of his that are just getting out of med. They're quitting, they're stopping. We're looking at doctors that are not coming into enrollments down. And a lot of that has to do with, so, doctor, if you're listening to this, the burnout is coming from a lot of things where you're trading a lot of time for that money and totally dependent on you. Whereas a lot of the marketing efforts expand the possibility of some breathing room and really coming back and being able to play in practice. And that's, every doctor that I've ever talked to, they just want to focus on clinic care. I just want to be able to work with people and not worry about all these types of things. And I would just stress, for me, it's taken a lot of that off my plate, even though I'm still involved in a lot of the marketing aspects. But we have those people flooding in. I don't have to worry about, like, okay, what ad are we going to do? Or, what agency do I need to hire to execute all these types of things. So, if there's a doctor out there listening, that burnout is just, and it's a serious thing, where, you may be not producing at the level, this has got to be part of your world. And then I'll go through because I've been privy to some of the conversations of people that wanting to come into HBL, and they ask the questions. Well, how much time does this take? So how much time does this take? What's my ROI on it? And I'm like, I always flip the script on that, is because you're asking the wrong questions. I mean, if it took 20 hours a week, but it increased your ROI by 1,000%, the time factor really doesn't matter. But you may want to speak to some of those sticking points when people are like, well, why would I jump into this organic marketing avenue? What does that, look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing that people really look at nowadays is like people have been so screwed over by, marketing companies, that I think it's just a natural resistance, right? It's kind of like the
Sure.
person who said like, dude, I've tried every diet, none of them worked, right? But
Yeah,
what
we
was
did
the
that a lot.
common denominator? It was the person,
Yeah.
right? And so I think naturally, like that stuff doesn't bother me because I dealt with it for so long. That was like, hey man, like I've tried every diet. And I'm like, hey, why do you think it didn't work? Like, oh, I don't know. It was keto, it was this. Like, okay, well, you know, did you see other people getting results? So it's like I always try to put it back on them and find out like where their mindset is coming in. Because, at the end of the day and age we live in, a lot of people just don't want to do the work it takes to actually get the results they're looking for, right? And so they're trying to measure out the ROI with the investment, and so here's what I'll say with that. Like, this is the only style of marketing that has a residual impact way greater than anything that you're going to get on a month to month basis, which means you build your brand. You can go back. I can go back, Todd, and I can see videos from you 3 years ago before you ever started working with me. And dude, I can see the growth that you've had. Now, Facebook ads won't do that. A lot of other stuff won't do that. Right. And so it's not that it's bad. All I'm saying is like, hey, for a client to witness your own growth, for a potential person, say something happened, to you or me, our kids could go back and actually see who we were, our first video, right? Back in 2011. They can see that and they can see the growth to 2023. So,
Yeah.
like, it's there forever, and it's the only thing that I know that's there forever. It's not there forever on Facebook ads. It's not there forever on certain things, but it is. And so, what I will say is like, yes, there's a huge ROI, but it's not as big as the ROI on, your brand long term. And that's the way I think of it. Is yes, like, dude, we definitely want to see you have that ROI immediately, but the greatest ROI in this is the long-term effect of what this produces.
I love that. And I've kind of flipped it in my own mind of, it is synonymous with a workout. I mean, people want that weight loss pill, which is the ad that's going to bring all the people in and solve all their financial problems and keep the practice open, things like that. Versus like, look, just going to wake up and I'm going to get to work. I'm going to do the reps today. And maybe I'll do a few more reps than I did yesterday. And it's that workout analogy that the results show up with consistency. And it's the same thing with marketing. No doubt the marketing is just, it's got to be done on a consistent basis. And I just, again, kudos to you and your program and being able to not only lead on that as far as in your lifestyle, and but to be able to extrapolate that into marketing. So I love that. What's just kind of from a health standpoint, you're very health driven, health motivated. You've led your family down that. You've been in the industry. What are your top couple? I mean, just even to a professional, the public in general. What are some of the things that you see are keystones in overall health? I know you do a lot of things, but just kind of put you on the spot there with that.
Yeah, man. I will say this. Daily movement
Yeah.
is probably the number one thing I would tell anybody to begin doing, especially health professionals. And I know so many aren't doing that, but like most of us feel stuck because we're not moving. Okay. So we might feel stuck in our business. We might feel stuck in our marriage. We might feel stuck in, situations. But like part of the reason we feel stuck is just we don't move enough. Right. And
Yeah.
so this is like one thing that I'm a firm believer in. Now, if you're going to get into like, hey, should I lift weights? Should I, walk? Should I run? I'm like, dude, just move, right? 20 to 30 minutes minimum a day. Um, and move as much as you can like throughout the day. So if you're stuck in an office, like go for a 10-15 minute walk after you eat lunch, 10-15 minute walk after you eat dinner, do a workout in the morning. Like that would be my number one go-to. Second thing is just as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, we have to constantly learn and grow. And what's that mean? That means that we can easily rely on, if I'm a chiropractor, it's very easy for me to continue to learn and grow in that. But how much does that really affect my business as much as maybe learning, what are some other skills that I might need as a business owner? Like, do I have the skills as a marketer? Do I have the skills in my sales process? Do I have the skills as a leader? Because all those things are going to dictate my success as a chiropractor, as well as developing my skills in that, as a chiropractor. The other thing is you know for me is like prayer. That's a huge thing for me, and just taking time out of my day to really be in prayer. Some people, they might call that, gratitude, whatever that is. Like, I'm not here to tell you what you should believe or shouldn't, but I will tell you that, having time every day to be in prayer is super important. And then um something that I've kind of shifted just in the last like 6-7 years is what I call like a daily reframe, right? And so it's like being able to take situations in your life that have happened, maybe employees, clients, wife, kids, all those situations, and being able to run those through a series of questions and really reframe your ability to go from this person did this to me, this thing happened to me, to coming out of that. So that's like a victim state, right? Usually has to do with blame. Todd did this to me, to being able to transition to, well, what do I actually want in the situation? And just getting clear on that will help and save you so much time and energy, and being stuck in kind of like your own stories, in your own, problems, right? And I think we live in a society where we're naturally kind of more victim based, right? Todd did this to me. My marketing isn't working because of Todd. I can't lose weight because of Todd, right? Versus saying, like, hey, what do I actually want? I need to take accountability and responsibility for my own results. And the only way I can do that is to begin to turn it away from you and turn it back on me.
It's huge. And doctors, that's what we expect out of patients as well. But often, if we're not leading that in our own environments, it doesn't exude into our staff or our team, and it's really hard to lead patients down that way as well. And I've taught on this a bunch, that we love to blame a virus for being sick. Right? It's like, well, what slice of virus? Because people love a diagnosis. Did you hear it's the rhinovirus is now causing this, or it's allergens that are causing this. I'm like, it keeps people from taking the responsibility. And when you're in that status, it also keeps you from growth. And
Let's
yeah,
just say this, man. The greatest virus today is the virus of being a victim.
yeah, it's huge.
Regardless, what time is it? 2020? Is it 2023? Like, the greatest virus we have today is just being a victim.
Yeah,
And the greatest cure for that is accountability and responsibility.
yeah, huge. in health and relationships and your marketing and your business, everything.
Everywhere, right?
For sure. What's your, it may be hard to do, but what's your favorite biohack right now? I know you're doing some ice bath, and I know you've played
And
around.
I will say this, I'm a little bit behind the game. But I will say, I really love the cold plunge, and I'll
Mhm.
tell you why. Like in a 5-minute session, I'm getting breath work, I'm getting stress resilience, my adaptability to stress. I'm getting almost like a meditative experience. I'm reducing inflammation and I'm getting a crazy amount of energy.
I love it.
I don't know too many things that you can do for 5 minutes and get all those things.
Huge. I know it's joke.
So, and yeah,
I
go
was,
ahead, man.
I know. I was just gonna say I was joking around with a group of guys, and I was like, "Hey, did you see that new study that cold plunges reduces your testosterone?" They're like, "Oh shit, really?" I'm like, "No, just kidding." There's so many. Yeah, I agree. There's so many benefits, and I'm behind the curve too on that. I've wanted to do it, just haven't done it. Of course, in wintertime around here, we probably just go around outside and run around naked and do some snow angels or something. But something I'll be looking at for sure. Um, where do you see marketing, and I guess specifically for this podcast too, marketing in healthcare, but marketing in general, going over the next 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, I really see people creating their own communities online,
Yeah.
and just understanding how to do that, and then understanding like how to take even a local community and turn it into an online community that expands and grows. So we have the ability, right? You may only be able to hold, just say, 3,000 people in your clinic. Well, taking that online has you the ability to maybe have 300,000 people in a virtual clinic. And so I really see the adaptability of taking what we can do in a local market and expanding it into a virtual market. The other thing I see is like people beginning to create their own platforms. So like, say once I have 100,000 followers, 50,000 followers, maybe I create my own version of Facebook, and all of a sudden I have my own community where I'm pulling it away from my other community, and I'm beginning to create my own, almost like my own community, right? And let's just say like your own version of like Facebook, or maybe your own version of like Truth Social or something like that, to where it's like, hey, here's my platform. That's really kind of what I see. And then I see it continuing to be even more important in the next 2 to 3 years, that that you're good on camera. You're good. Like, think of it this way: the skills of the business owner right now are like, hey, as an entrepreneur, as a health professional, you need to learn how to market, you need to learn how to sell. The next ones that are happening right now is the transition of how well do you communicate? How well, do you stand in front of a camera and communicate to your audience? And how well do they connect to that? And that's kind of like where I see us heading even more so. Everything's going to be all video based. And so we really have to get ahead on that.
No, I agree with you. And I guess the potential instability of like Zuckerberg just flipping the switch at one point and locking you out. The freedom of speech is another big issue to be able to talk about. And we see that in
Yeah.
how many different versions, spelling versions of COVID are out
And
there.
think about it this way, man, is like Facebook could say like, hey, I don't want you to say this anymore. So any video that has this, it's now gone,
Yeah.
and so you may have to create your own platform just to talk about the things you want to talk about.
Yeah. Even go back after past footage and things like that. That's good. And uh, it's exciting times if you're subject yourself to the work on this and be a student of it as well, because there's no other time that you have just the power and a cell phone to be able to communicate a message efficiently and effectively to people, and at the end of the road help people. I mean, that's all we're doing. I don't obviously it's easy from a doctor standpoint. We're helping people get healthier, which is one of the most important things in people's worlds. but you're helping others indirectly do that same thing, and that is super cool. I appreciate you jumping on. How do people get a hold of you if they want to work with you or jump on a call or something like that?
Yeah, so I have my podcast, Habit Based Lifestyle, which you could definitely tune into. I have social media, which is Jesse, Jesse, last name Ewell. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. If you want to personally reach out to me, Jesse at habitbasedlifestyle.com. You can reach out that way. I want to leave you with one last thing, man.
Yeah.
Since we're in the health profession, I'm going to say this. You know, we have the ability to beat big Sharma. Let's just say that. So that way they can't do anything with us. But we have the ability to beat that and actually get people healthy by simply being a voice, right? And so it's like, hey, you get 100 health professionals that are all communicating about how they can help people, the results they get. Dude, that message goes out to hundreds of thousands to millions of people. They can't touch that, right? And I think right now it's time to get out of the reactive communication style of healthcare and get into the proactive communication style that, like, hey, we can actually fix problems, right? And I really think that, over the next 2 years, that trust and credibility with what so many chiropractors are doing, health professionals, like if we can get that out into the marketplace, we're going to see so many people's lives changed. And that's really what I'm committed to, man, is helping people be able to do that.
I love it. I love it. And a bigger picture too. One of the founders, BJ Palmer, had once said that it's connecting man, the physical, with man, the spiritual. And the more we can remove these disease states and infiltrates of processed foods and other medicines out there, it allows man, the physical, to connect more. And that's an ultimate, penultimate goal for sure. I love it. I love it. All right.
It's yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
it's crazy, man. Just being around, being around. I was, I feel like I grew up kind of being a biohacker. Like, how do I optimize my health? How do I optimize in sports? So like being around other chiropractors and health professionals, you really see that, like, hey, these guys actually went to school to almost become their own, biohackers, and so what's really cool is like now I feel like you guys are actually getting the credit you deserve the last like 3 years, especially. And so I really see that as a progressive movement moving into 2024, 2025 as a even more trusted source for so many different things.
I love it. And you're helping a ton of us stand up, and that, full circle on you, the victim mentality. I grew up in a generation of chiropractors that would want to be a victim to medical doctors. It's like, oh, they're this, they're that. They're not. There are many that are now starting to come in alignment with a lot of our science, our philosophy, and what we do. And so, yeah, I mean, chiropractors, I don't care who it is, but chiropractors need to stand up. I mean, it's our voice, and I've said that for a long, long time. But it's not our voice unless we stand up and be able to communicate that message and market it effectively. And you're going to see, like myself, doctors that want to get involved with you. I sat with a nurse today, and she's like, I want to stop everything I'm doing and just be part of this. This is awesome." And you can build that voice, and I appreciate you helping us do it too, man.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it.
Likewise. All right, ladies and gentlemen, appreciate you watching, and Lessons with Legends, and legend now in marketing, healthcare, and helping chiropractors become better, and other healthcare practitioners as well. We appreciate you. We'll talk to you next week.